Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning, my amigos. Great to see you today. Thursday, March 25th, 2021. And I have another crown I'd like to share with you today. Uh, you find it mentioned in Second Timothy chapter 4, and verses 7 and 8, where the Apostle Paul tells his son in the faith, Timothy, I have fought a good fight. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord the righteous judge shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. You know, when Paul wrote his second epistle to Timothy, that's the last letter that he wrote that we have in our Bibles. And when he wrote those words, he was in prison awaiting his execution. And he knew, as he wrote, at any time soldiers could appear at his cell door and lead him out to be beheaded. And as a Roman citizen, that was considered a more humane execution than some of the other tortures that Romans had devised. Uh, but as he writes, isn't it interesting? Paul was not concerned about his approaching death and what that would be like and how unjust it was for them to execute an innocent man. But he was looking beyond that to what awaited him after his death. Jesus, the righteous judge, as Paul calls him, would be there waiting for Paul at that moment when he left this earth and entered heaven. And the Lord would have a crown for him, the crown of righteousness. Can't you imagine how much that meant to this former Pharisee? For so many years of his life, he had just wasted them trying to achieve righteousness by being a good Jew. In fact, much more than a good Jew. He was trying to be a perfect Jew by keeping the Old Testament law perfectly. There were 613 commandments to be kept. But actually, there are many more than that because what the Pharisees did was they divided each of those 613 commandments into two lists of things that must be done. One of those lists would be the things that must be done to keep all of those 613 commandments. And the other list would be things that they must not do to keep each of those 613 commandments. Couldn't you imagine what it's like to live your life trying to keep that many rules and regulations and laws? And yet, as a Pharisee, Saul knew that even with all that effort, he was not righteous. He even described himself as the chief of sinners. In Romans 7, I feel his pain as he cried out, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" But at long last, he knew that when he entered heaven, Jesus would be there with a crown in his hands and he would provide him what he could not provide for himself, righteousness. And he could stand before the Lord, finally, righteous, with a righteousness that's a gift that Christ would give him. And this is not just for the Apostle Paul. I love the fact that he goes on to mention that, but for all who love his appearing. I want to ask you, my friends, are you living every day in anticipation of that day when you'll meet the Lord? Do you joyfully live knowing that at any moment you could stand in his presence? And if so, that crown of righteousness is waiting for you, my friend. And if nothing else, that should make this day a day of rejoicing, knowing what we have in store for us when we stand complete before Christ on that day. Well, think about this today, my friends, and I'll look forward to being back with you again very soon. See you tomorrow.